I have officially turned 27, so we have 27 books, I'm kidding. 18 books that I got in the last few days slash weeks. Some I bought myself, some are from friends, and then one is from a publisher I love and adore, and they literally said, you can make a list and we'll see what we can send you. Also, this is getting heavy, so let's get right to it. We are about to head out. I have a lot of things planned today, which is not what I was planning to do for my birthday weekend. I wanted to just chill and do nothing, but we are gonna have brunch with my friends. Then we're gonna have dinner, and then we're gonna have drinks tonight. Let's figure out what's happening tomorrow. But I'm hoping to get some reading done. I really wanted to read Brian by Jeremy Cooper. For my birthday, it's supposed to be heartwarming and found family, community, and the power of the arts, which sounds right up my alley. So, catch you in a bit. Oh, also, my friend got me 4 books from Norway, and I think we're gonna have an almost 20 book haul. Fun. Good morning. I just turned 27. I already had my cardamom bun for the day, and it's currently 9 a.m. The weather is so nice today, and it's quite bright. That's why I'm squinting a little bit. But I'm thinking of having a bit of a slower Sunday. I might spend today alone because I was running around many different plans yesterday. I saw my friends for breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, which was really great. I had no plans, anything for my birthday, so to just stumble upon nice celebrations was very nice. But I also wanted to rest this weekend, and I think I'll just do my usual reading today at a cafe, go to a museum maybe, and go do some climbing. Um, I haven't climbed in 24 hours. I gotta start the day with some bouldering, you know? Um, I am a third through Brian by Jeremy Cooper. Let's see if I can finish this today. I am liking it so far. It's wholesome and heartwarming about a guy who's trying to find community through his love for movies, which, as someone who loves books and also movies, I love the messaging of it, and it's nice so far. But it can get quite boring. Um, and I say that in a neutral way for now. Let's see if it becomes negative eventually, but I'm enjoying it. It's nice company for my birthday weekend, so. Hi, hello. Welcome back to our usual spot. We have a lot of books that we will be going through today. I just turned 27 a couple of days ago, and some of these books I bought for myself, were gifted to me by my friends, or sent by the publishers. And I haven't really had the time to go through them because it's been a very, very busy past couple of days. So I thought I'd go through them with you. A lot of these books I have wanted for a very long time, or if not, were recommended to me by my friends. But at the end of the day, I don't really read blurbs that much, or I don't try to remember them. So we'll see how I will be explaining each and every one of these books. Also, I haven't filmed. This is my first time filming in like 2 weeks, and I'm kind of not used to talking to a camera. So, hello. Um, Breathe. I'll be breaking down these books into 3 parts. These are the books that I bought for myself, whether it be in bookstores or thrifted bookshops. These are the books that were gifted to me by my friend. This is from Norway. And then these are nyrb books. 80% of them would be gifted by the publisher, and then two of them I bought for myself. But I just mixed them in here just so it flows a bit more naturally. And before we start, this massive book haul is not an encouragement for people to also do massive book hauls. I am very intentional with the books that I buy, but more specifically with the books that publishers send to me. I get a lot of messages from publishers on arcs or books that they would want to send over, but I'm very particular with what I want, especially since I don't have that much space and I would want to move in the future. So for this NYRB books, I specifically sent a list of all of my dream NYRB books, and they sent me 6 that I'm very, very honored to have received. I am very grateful for these books. So we have a lot of books. Let's get to it. It's going to be a long one. First, let's start with the books that I bought. First, we have what I talk about when I talk about running with Mr. Haruki Murakami. I have read, I think, all of Murakami's novels, except for the last 2 recent ones, the Thickums books. But I haven't really read a lot of his nonfiction. And a lot of people have been telling me that this is a wonderful, wonderful book. Even my friends who don't really read have read this book, but they're runners, so I guess it makes sense. I picked up running at the start of the year because I was training for a trek in Nepal in April, which I already finished, but I realized I actually quite enjoy running, which is strange because I haven't done it in a week. But so I ended up just continuing it and really enjoying it, and I think it's about time for me to actually, give this little book a try, add to my bibliography of Haruki Murakami's books that I have read. And again, it's a little nice pocket-sized book that I adore. Next, we have Vincent van Gogh's For Art and for Life. I don't really buy a lot of Penguin Classics tiny black books just because I don't want to spend that much money for such a teeny tiny book that I can probably finish in the bookstore itself. But the Penguin Archive is stunning. I love the way that they approach the archive editions with art styles that reflect the time the books were came out. So this one is again For Art and for Life, and I believe it's exchanges of letters with Vincent van Gogh. And the last time I read a book similar to that would probably be Letters to a Young Poet, which I love and adore, and it's one of my all-time favorites. But yeah, I was looking at the other Penguin archives. I was also interested on Eileen Chang's and Stefan Zweig's Chess, but I already have Chess somewhere here. Spoiler. So I decided to go for this one, and if I enjoy this, maybe I'll check the other books as well. But for the size, it's quite expensive, but it's pretty. So I do love a pretty book cover. Next we have let's go to the last one first. Next we have Oranges Are Not the Only Fruit by Jeanette Winterson. I have been seeing this book everywhere, specifically this year, and I've heard of Jeanette Winterson's name from way back. I believe her other book is Why Be Happy If I Could Be Normal. That might not be the actual title, but somewhere along those lines. And I've always been intrigued by that specific book, but this one I only got visibility on this around this year. And the love and regard I've heard for this book has been amazing. So the moment I saw it in the bookstore, I decided to purchase it. I don't really know much about it except for it being a sapphic book and relating to religion in some way, but I will always support and read a queer novel. So I will get to this eventually and then get to read it in Pride Month. But hey, no need to reserve queer books for Pride Month, dear friends. Next, 2 books I bought from a used bookstore. First would be Intimacies by Kitty Kitamura. And this book I stumbled upon quite uniquely because I was having a discussion with my friend and she was raving about this book, and we ended up talking about Kitamura's other book as well that she just released. I believe it's called Audition or Auditions, and she's been reading to read it, and she's telling me to give this a try. And the moment I found this at the used bookstore, I just ended up buying it. I don't really know much about it. I read the blurb, but I mean, it looks cool, but I'm interested to see why this comes in high regard. But yes, and also the people mentioned at the front are authors that I love: Brandon Taylor, Alif Shafak, and Garth Greenwell. So intriguing. And last but not least, we have Mr. Ethan Hawke's A Bright Ray of Darkness. This is a bit of a strange one because I know Ethan Hawke mostly as the actor to one of my favorite movies of all time, the Four Trilogy. So the moment I found out he has a novel, and for the novel to be good,
intrigued. Don't know much about it. I know it's about an actor as well, who is not making the best decisions in life, and I don't know. It got me intrigued. I love Ethan Hawke in the Before trilogy, and I'm always interested to see artists try out other spaces and for them to be successful in both. At least this one I've heard great reviews on, so um, it's quite impressive. So I want to get to this eventually. I don't think I'll be reading this anytime soon, which is funny because I've had this on my radar for maybe like 2 or 3 years already. So those are all the books that I bought for myself. I use my it's my birthday as my excuse. I realized I missed out on one book that I also bought for my birthday. The book is Brian by Jeremy Cooper. I stumbled upon this on the maybe 2 to 3 days before my birthday, and I saw a book reviewer say that it's heartwarming and tender and just like a little love letter to art and finding community. And I was like, hey, that sounds perfect as a birthday weekend read. So I immediately went to the bookstore and ended up buying it. And my friend wasn't lying, because Brian by Jeremy Cooper was heartwarming and tender, all of the good stuff. It's about an unremarkable man who is yearning for more. His life is very simple, and he keeps it that way because he doesn't want any surprises or anxieties that would just come creeping up. But then he also yearns for community, and he finds it through his love for film, through the British Film Institute. And through that, you get a story of a person who falls in love with the art and the people that are also equally passionate about it. On the one hand, it is beautiful, it's tender, it's heartwarming, but on the other, the writing can be quite monotonous and boring. So all things considered, I enjoyed reading it, but at the end of the day, I gave it, I think, 3 stars. Though if you're a film buff, you would really enjoy the film critiques and observations that they do come up with on this book. A lot of great recommendations as well of books of movies that I have had on my radar for a long time, but I never really got to. So it was nice to be reminded of them. But yes, for a very specific audience, I would say. Next we have the books that I was gifted. So we have 4 books here. These all came from Norway. I believe these are all Norwegian authors. First, we have Sovjetistan by Erika Fatland. Aside from my love for literature and fiction and all of that good stuff, I also love reading nonfiction books about places that I've longed to visit, or are of places that are very hard to get to. So Tibet, North Korea are usually places in the world that I love to read about. And then another one would be Central Asia. So all of the stans, Uzbekistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, all of that. And within this, I don't think I've read any book about Central Asia. So when I mentioned that to my friend, she immediately recommended this to me because she read this and loved it. So I think it would be a great introduction to the region for me. Next, we have Back in the Day by Oliver Lavrensky. This, I believe, my friend was reading this here in Bangkok a couple of weeks ago, and she was really intrigued by the unique writing and language used. Apparently, this is by an up-and-coming Norwegian author that is getting a lot of acclaim, not only within Norway, but also outside of it. And when you open the book, you would see like it's kind of in journal entries a little bit. And when you look at the language used, it's very informal, it's very fast paced and aggressive and informal. And it's very intriguing because if I'm not mistaken, it's about working class migrant boys who are trying to figure things out in their life and try not to make their bad decisions just a dead end for them when it comes to life. So, and I think I'll be reading this quite soon. It really intrigued me when my friend was talking about it. And last but not the least, I have had this book on my TBR at least, or want to buy list for maybe 5 years already, but I just never got it just because it's a bit of a commitment. We have Karl Ove Knausgaard's My Struggle. This is the first 2 books of, I believe, a 6 or 7 book series. Knausgaard is an author that I have heard a lot of things about through other favorite authors. And with book reviewers, he's often an author that is very polarizing. Some people love him, some people hate him. Some people think he's so not pretentious, but yeah, he holds so much pride and not in the best way possible. And it's always these intriguing characters when they write books. It's always so fascinating. And apparently, my struggle is supposed to be auto fiction. Correct me if I'm wrong, but given that he's always referenced by authors that I love or compared to authors that I love, such as Jan Fosse, I've always just wanted to read. I've always wanted to read his works, and my friend got me the beautiful covers. These, especially there's a man in love, the orange and the blue, stunning. Because I've always seen the other covers in the when I was living in the Philippines, where it's just a face of a man on the cover, and again, looks interesting, but it's nothing like this. And you know me, I love a book that's just about life, just about the small things, the mundane, but written in a way that makes it fascinating, not monotonous, not boring. So I'm hoping that this book will do the job. And since my friend also got a copy of the Norwegian versions, we might end up buddy reading these books together. So I think that'll be fun. But I might save this for a season that matches a Norwegian book. I don't know. I just assume when I think of Norway, I think of beautiful nature, but also freezing cold. I would love to read this during the winter. I know you guys have summer if I have Norwegian viewers there, but I always dreamt of visiting Norway during the coldest of seasons because I love winter. I love the cold, so might save it for that time. And last but not the least, we have 8 books. We have 8 books from NYRB, one of my favorite publishers. International shipping is always very difficult, especially as a creator coming from Southeast Asia and all of the publishers being based in the US and the UK. I am always very grateful when they decide to pay so much money for shipment just to send me books. And specifically, NYRB sent me 6 books, and a lot of them are I think majority of them are books that I've known for a long time, but I can never really find here in Bangkok or even back in Manila. So when they said make a list, I really took my chance. So thank you NYRB for sending these over. I'm a very happy reader. But before I go to the gifted books, I'll start first with the 2 books that I bought. First one would be Chess Story by Stefan Zweig. I read Journey to the Past a couple of years ago, and it was good, but I don't remember falling in love with it. It was a recommendation from my friend, but I said, okay, it was nice, but it didn't make me want to read more of Stefan Zweig's works. But I saw this in Kinokuniya here in Bangkok, and they usually don't have Stefan Zweig in NYRB. They usually have it in Penguin. And again, I love an NYRB edition, so bad reasoning, do not follow me, but I bought it because it's a stunning copy. And I read it right away. So I do read the books that I buy. Not me being defensive. I read this maybe 3 days after buying it, after reading James Baldwin's Just Above My Head. And again, for some reason this year, I would read a 5-star book, and immediately after, I'd find a book that's also really, really good. And that's the case with this one. I just wanted to break after the incredible reading experience that came with Just Above My Head by James Baldwin. And who knew? I sat down at a cafe. I was like, okay, I have a headache. I just want to rest and not think about work. Read this in one sitting. Exhilarating. Fantastic. It finally made me want to read Beware of Pity and The Post Office Girl, also by Stefan Zweig. And I'm praying that I can find an NYRB copy at some point in time. But yes, that is Chess by Stefan Zweig. Next, we have William Sloane's The Rim of Morning, 2 Tales of Cosmic Horror. One thing you need to know about me is I love horror as a genre. There was a time in my life where I would fall asleep to horror podcasts, not true crime, horror. And I think I still do it every once in a while. There's a podcast that I listen to. I forgot the name. There's Philippine ones and international ones. And I don't know, horror just makes me realize, hey, when life is horrible and stressful, at least ghosts are not following me. And that brings me a lot of comfort. And hopefully I didn't jinx myself there. But this one I got through my friend who was visiting Malaysia. And I knew that they also have an NYRB collection down there. And I haven't really read a lot of great horror novels. I love horror as a genre, specifically in the visual form or auditory form, basically listening to it. But I've never read a book of the horror genre that really scared me. Right? I don't think so. So I'm trying to craft my TBR for October this year for a scary reading month. So I have this one, The Room of Mourning, and I heard about this I think 2 years ago through a very, very niche booktuber who had like 2,000 followers and they were raving about it. I think this would be a perfect little chunky book to read for horror month this year. Now we're going to the books that I actually got sent by nyrb. First we have Dorothy Gallagher's Stories I Forgot to Tell You, which is like fragments of stories seeing how grief manifests in everyday moments when you usually have your normal routines, things you do in your everyday life where you used to have this other person and suddenly they're gone. And this year alone, I think my top 5 books of the year are all, most if not all, books about grief. And the moment I heard about this through a fellow bookstagrammer, it really made me want to read it. I think it's a fascinating way of observing grief outside of the usual intense extreme emotions. So yeah, and it's a beautiful title, Stories I Forgot to Tell You. Next we have another horror book. This is called The Other by Thomas Treon, and this one I actually researched on. This is newly on my radar, but when nyrb told me about making a list, I specifically looked for 3 things: translated, queer, and horror. So all of these books would generally fall under those spaces, and this was the horror find that I got, and it sounds fascinating. It's about 2 identical twin boys who couldn't be more different from each other, and it explores the darkness that hides deep within. I don't know if it's actually gonna be scary, or if it's gonna be like grief horror, but I'm still excited. I'm crafting my little horror reading month for this year, and I already have 2 entries, and I believe I have 2 other books that I'm saving for that reading month. Actually, am I alone on this? Am I the only person who loves horror? Because none of my friends, except for maybe 1 or 2, love horror as much as I do. I don't know. It's just such a it's my guilty pleasure genre. Next, we have 2 books by Mr. Robert Gluck about Ed and Marguerite Kemp. So this would be the queer books that I picked up. Robert Gluck's About Ed, I discovered through Bookstagram, I think just this Pride Month. My friends were talking about reading it. I believe this is quite a recent release, 2023. And I have read a lot of books about the AIDS and HIV crisis that the queer community went through decades ago, and some parts of the world are continuing to go through. But I've read most of them, if not all of them, in the fiction space. And I hear that this one is a memoir and an autobiography. So I already know it's going to be a depressing reading experience, but an important one at that. And I heard great things, at least from the, I think, 4 people that I know who read this book. And also, stunning cover. But yes, I am very excited to get to this, although I know I'm going to be heartbroken by it. And Marguerite Kemp by Robert Gluck is probably the book that has been on my TBR for the longest time. I love myself a polarizing, controversial book, and whenever this book comes up, it's either someone says it's the worst thing in the world or it's the best thing in the world. So that's one way to get me as a reader. Because I was born, baptized, and raised Catholic, not really practicing anymore, but I do know a bit of Marguerite Kemp, who was an aspiring saint and had this little bit of a relationship, or so someone says, with Jesus. So I don't really know the details about who she is, but I know that this one is a bit of a retelling, and I think this has 2 different stories, and one touches more on the queer elements of it. And again, and then what comes out of it becomes a novel of sexual obsession, desire, and that, with the title of Marguerite Kemp, just seems so brave, you know? So I'm excited to read this, and I think I want to read this sometime this year just because it sounds right up my alley. Because I prefer a book that people love or hate rather than a book that I'm just like, it's fine. So hopefully I'm on the side where I love this book, but I guess we'll be seeing that soon. Next, we have Three Summers by Margarita Liberaki, translated from the Greek. I wanted to get this last year. I was flying to Copenhagen and Stockholm for summer of 2024, and I was looking for books that would make me enjoy summer. I ended up getting the summer book by Tove Jansson, but this is the one that was actually number 1 on my TBR. Unfortunately, I couldn't find it anywhere in Bangkok. nor in Manila when I visited. Because generally, I'm not a summer person. I was born in Southeast Asia, raised in Southeast Asia. So the heat and I, for some reason, we just never jived. We don't have a good relationship. I don't enjoy it. I've experienced negative 27 degrees Celsius, and I would choose that over 34 degrees Celsius. That's how much I dislike the heat. I'll probably still choose negative 27 over 30 degrees or 28 degrees. So with that alone, going to another place for summer is such a foreign concept to me because I'm like, going summer to travel for when the sun is out and it's hot doesn't make sense when I'm born in Southeast Asia. But Copenhagen and Stockholm, amazing weather, and I just wanted to give summer a proper chance. So I got some summer books. I think I got August Blue, outlined by Rachel Cusk, and the summer book by Tove Jansson. Unfortunately, I didn't get this, but the moment NYRB said list, this was on my list. Unfortunately, I'm just gonna be staying in Asia for this year's summer trip, which I'll be going to Taiwan, which is gonna be in the rainy season. But hey, summer can be a mentality, and I think that's what I'll be doing. Although I'm not sure if I'll be reading this year, or maybe I'll save it for another time where I'll be experiencing a beautiful summer. But at least I have the book now. So, and last but not least, we have Women Running in the Mountains by Yuko Tsushima, translated from the Japanese. And this one specifically I discovered in Kinokuniya, actually in Bangkok. So I have seen this book in Thailand and it is available here, but I never ended up buying it just because it intrigued me, but NYRBs are quite expensive here in Bangkok, so I wanted to be sure about it. But I've always been fascinated by the way this book is described because when I think of Japanese literature, it's often in the space of gentle, tender, quiet novels, but then people describe this as fierce and about a mother a mother and her kid trying to make a living and survive. And that contrast is something fascinating to me. I wanted to see how Yuko Tsushima executes it and how it how it might change my perspective of how Japanese literature usually is. So it intrigued me enough, but I never ended up buying it. So I'm very happy now that I have a copy because at least I don't have to make a decision anymore.
I've already finished filming and editing the video, so tell me why I am holding 2 books with me. I really need to fix my book buying rules because the exceptions are exceptioning. And I don't think I can still use my birthday as an excuse because it's already after the fact. And I'm going to Taiwan in 2.5 weeks, which means I will be looking for books there as well. So we will be doing some reevaluations sometime in August when I get back from my trip. But for now, I have 2 more books and they fit within my book buying rules. So one is a Palestinian book. This is The Coin by Yasmin Zaher. I realize it's flipped, so let me just put a photo here somewhere. And I don't really know much about it, but this is a book that I've been seeing everywhere and I've only heard great things about it. And I have been trying to read more Palestinian books, whether it be translated from the Arabic or whether it be from Palestinians who write in English. So this one fits the bill. And again, I've only heard great things, so I really want to see whether it's worth the great things I've been hearing about it. Number 2 is a very long title, so I have to read it out. A Mountain to the North, a Lake to the South, Paths to the West, a River to the East by Laszlo Krasznahorkai. Laszlo Krasznahorkai is one of the authors that I've been really wanting to explore for a very long time. I have a copy of Satantango lying around here somewhere, but it's thickums and I tried starting it at one point and it's a bit intimidating. And this one is a bit of a shorter novella. So I think this would be a nice place to start. And as I'm saying this, I think it'd be nice to do a little video on authors I want to explore more of, authors that I haven't read any book of, or at least I've read only one and I want to explore more of. So he would definitely be one of them. I've heard amazing things, although also very difficult things about his writing. And yeah, I saw this. It's my first time seeing this at the bookstore, so I wanted to get it. It was the last copy, so, and it's translated from the Hungarian, so it fits my book buying exception as well. Okay, I'll bring it back to Ashley from the past.
So there you have it. If I got my calculation correct, we have 18 books. We have 18 books that I just got in the last 2 weeks. And if I were to say what I think I will be reading in the next 6 months, or the ones I'm most excited about, I would probably, let me go through it now. I have finished this. So I've finished these 2 books, so I guess they don't count. And then I don't think I'll be reading any of these three soon, unless they randomly call me. Van Gogh and Murakami I probably will be reading sometime soon when I need a break from like big chunky books. Sovietistan, maybe not soon. Back in the day, I think very, very soon. I want to read this maybe this July, just because I'm really intrigued by the way my friend described it. And ambitious. Ambitious, but I think I will give Knausgård a try officially sometime this year. Maybe I'll save it for like November, December. And then within the NYRBs, obviously we will have our horror entries. So the Rim of Morning and the Other will be for this year. And then stories I forgot to tell you, again, it's short, it's about grief. I think it'll be again one of those little palate cleanser books. A book about grief as a palate cleanser doesn't make sense. You get what I'm saying. Mr. Robert Gluck, this autobiography, and then the highly polarizing Marguerite Kemp. Wow. Is this a commitment? Am I committing to be finishing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 of the books that I just got within this year? And then these ones, I think these will be very specific mood reads for me if I'd be looking for them. This is a second book, so maybe not. Sovietistan, mood read when I'm looking for something a bit more nonfiction. And then 3 Summers, I think I'll save for a European summer somewhere down the line in the future. And then Women Running in the Mountains, I'll think about when I'll be reading it. And then this is the stack. This is the stack for this year. I'll be focusing on these ones, and they'll be going straight to my TBR section, which faces my mirror. So whenever I take my mirror selfies, they'll be calling me out because they're gonna get higher and higher, and hopefully I read more and more. But yes, I think I got a lot more comfortable talking to the camera as the minutes passed. And if you stuck around till the end, let me know if any of these books you've read or are also interested in. If you want to read it with me, let me know your thoughts. Let me know. And I will see you back at our usual spot.